Many people believe that luxury is about spending more money, but honestly, that couldn't be further from the truth. True luxury is about meaning, and few things carry as much meaning within a bottle as Dom Pérignon. It's not just champagne. It's a liquid timeline, 300 years of history fermenting in silence, as if each drop held a secret that the ordinary world never perceived. And the most curious thing? This drink was born from a mistake. While people chase after flashy products, Dom Pérignon follows an almost rebellious philosophy: to appear less in order to be worth more. It's counterintuitive, I know. How can something that doesn't engage in blatant marketing be more desirable than brands that spend millions to attract attention? It's simple. When something carries rarity, tradition, and a touch of mystery, it doesn't need to shout to be heard. It only needs to exist. And that's enough to create desire. Perhaps that's why so many billionaires, artists, and visionaries treat Dom Pérignon as if it were a ritual, not just a drink. They understand something the general public hasn't yet grasped. Each bottle is a unique chapter, one that will never be repeated. The kind of exclusivity that can't be bought with money alone, but with perception. Because in the end, those who see symbolic value know that certain luxuries don't fit into labels, they fit into stories. And here's the paradox that few comment on. Dom Pérignon became a legend precisely because it refused to exist in imperfect years. While the whole world tries to produce more, the brand chooses to produce less. This bothers many people. It goes against market logic. But it is this silent rebellion that transformed a monastic drink into a global icon. And perhaps that's what's missing in your life today. Less rushing, more intention. So before we delve into this fascinating story, full of mistakes that turned into successes, controversial decisions that shaped centuries, and techniques so sophisticated, they seem like magic, I'll ask you a direct question. Are you prepared to see luxury the way millionaires do? Because after understanding Dom Pérignon, you'll never look at a bottle, or your own choices, the same way again. The visionary monk who didn't intend to create champagne, but changed the world of luxury without realizing it. The curious thing is that Dom Pierre Pérignon never imagined that his name would become synonymous with luxury. He was just a Benedictine monk, dedicated to the discipline, tradition, and silence of his abbey, where craftsmanship was seen as a form of prayer. While many sought fame, he sought perfection. Not for the world, but for God. And ironically, it was precisely this devotion that led him to discover a rarity that would change the symbolic value of human celebrations. Almost like someone who, unintentionally, finds gold when all they wanted was to plant better grapes. What's most fascinating is that Dom Pérignon wasn't trying to create champagne. He was trying to prevent the wine from over-fermenting. This second fermentation, celebrated today, was considered a dangerous problem. But he was a man of intellectual exclusivity, someone who observed details that no one else saw. He adjusted pressures, experimented with grape combinations, and noted every nuance as if recording a hidden history of nature. It's like that friend who fiddles with the computer just to clean up files and accidentally discovers a function that nobody else knew how to use. Few people understand the level of sophistication involved in Dom Pérignon's work. He had a palate trained like a conductor identifying hidden instruments within a symphony. There are accounts that he could recognize grapes by smell alone, something similar to a modern sommelier, but with much more legacy and significance. And this silent obsession created the basis for a drink that, centuries later, would become a symbol of rarity and perfection. It's almost poetic to think that it all began with someone who just wanted to stop the wine from exploding in the bottles. And, without realizing it, paved the way for something much bigger, which leads us directly to the next step in this intriguing story. The birth of the method that transformed an ordinary wine into a drink celebrated by European nobility. The method we now call the méthode champenoise was born almost as a controlled accident, a mixture of patience, tradition, and a touch of monastic stubbornness. Dom Pérignon began to realize that certain grapes, when treated with sophistication, revealed a hidden history that no ordinary wine offered. He began experimenting with combinations, pressures, temperatures, and resting times that others considered excessive. But it is precisely in the obsession with perfection that rarity is born. And so, step by step, his technique began to gain symbolic value. While French wines were consumed in a simple manner, what Dom Pérignon created caught the attention of the nobility almost immediately. The controlled effervescence, previously seen as a defect, became a sensory exclusivity in the glasses of aristocrats. Imagine someone who, by insisting on detail, transforms an everyday product into a symbol of luxury, like an artisan who polishes glass until it resembles a diamond. That's what happened. The technique elevated wine from something common to a celebratory ritual overflowing with sophistication. As the drink's fame grew, more people wanted to understand how that delicate shimmer appeared inside the bottle. The truth is, many tried to imitate it, but none could reproduce the same legacy of care, patience, and precision. It's like trying to copy a famous recipe without knowing the family secret. Dom Pérignon left behind a method that became tradition, but also left questions, and this growing curiosity paved the way for the moment when his name would become synonymous with absolute exclusivity, even before the brand officially existed. How Dom Pérignon became synonymous with exclusivity even before it existed as a brand. The most incredible thing is that Dom Pérignon became a symbol of exclusivity long before any bottle bore its name. Its reputation was born through word of mouth among nobles, as happens with rare experiences that don't need publicity. When a king heard of such a sophisticated wine created by a monk, it aroused an almost sacred curiosity. It was as if that drink carried a hidden history, something that only those with privileged access could taste. And in those times, access meant power. Even without a label, without marketing, and without commercial intent, the monk's legacy spread like a well-kept secret. People wanted to know who the man was who could transform grapes into something so special, and this desire increased the symbolic value of the drink. It's like when someone discovers a hidden restaurant, simple on the outside, but which delivers a gastronomic rarity. It becomes pure exclusivity. Thus, the name Dom Pérignon began to circulate as if it were a password to enter a reserved world. The curious thing is that this quiet fame created the perfect ground for his story to be transformed into a brand centuries later. The almost spiritual sophistication he exuded became part of a narrative that endures to this day. This shows how the power of legacy is so strong that it can cross centuries without losing its force. And this almost mythical aura paved the way for the moment when someone would finally decide to bring this name to life in the modern world of luxury, something that would begin to change everything in the next chapter of this story, the modern reinvention. When Moet and Chandon revived the legacy and transformed a historic name into a global icon. When Moet and Chandon decided to reclaim the Dom Pérignon name, it wasn't a random gesture. It was a strategic move by those who deeply understand the world of luxury. They realized that the monk's legacy had immense, dormant, symbolic value waiting to be reactivated. And they transformed this historic name into something bigger, a bottled myth. It's like when a brilliant director finds an old book and realizes that it contains a story capable of touching the whole world. The difference is that, in this case, the story came with 300 years of natural exclusivity. The brand realized it didn't need to invent anything. It simply needed to amplify tradition. Thus, Dom Pérignon was reborn with sophistication, craftsmanship, and a narrative so profound it seemed written for collectors of emotional rarity. And in the world of champagne, this was revolutionary. Brands competed with marketing, while Dom Pérignon competed with hidden history. It was this combination that created an almost spiritual positioning, as if each bottle were a work of art, dedicated to those who understand that luxury is not ostentation, it's meaning. What's most impressive is that, in bringing the name back, Moet and Chandon didn't treat it as a product, but as a character with a soul, purpose, and timeline. They understood that great brands don't sell things, they sell sensations, rituals, and experiences. And this approach ushered in a completely new era, where Dom Pérignon ceased to be just a champagne and became a global icon. An icon that would only become even more intriguing when they decided that its production would adhere to an almost philosophical principle, something we'll delve into in the next section. Why is each bottle of Dom Pérignon produced only in years considered perfect? One of Dom Pérignon's boldest decisions was to create a rule that few would dare to adopt, only producing in perfect vintages. This means sacrificing profit, volume, and even market presence in some years, all in the name of rarity and extreme sophistication. For them, perfection is not a goal, it's a filter that separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. And, in the world of luxury, this discipline becomes almost a declaration of identity. This requirement creates a powerful psychological effect. Knowing that a vintage may simply not exist, the consumer begins to see each bottle as an unrepeatable moment. This transforms champagne into a liquid tradition, carrying hidden history in every bubble. It's like an artist who refuses to release an album every year, preferring to wait for true inspiration. When they finally deliver something, the world stops to listen. Scarcity reinforces exclusivity, and exclusivity elevates symbolic value. Furthermore, this philosophy creates an emotional connection between the producer and the consumer. The customer understands that they are not just buying a product, but a decision, the decision to preserve a legacy. For collectors, this is pure gold. For enthusiasts, it's almost a ritual. And this logic is so powerful that it paves the way for another essential part of the Dom Pérignon identity. The way the champagne ages like a living work of art, something that will become even more fascinating in the next chapter. The secret techniques that make champagne age like a living work of art. The aging of Dom Pérignon is treated almost like a sacred ritual, where each step carries tradition, sophistication, and a touch of mystery. The bottles are stored under specific conditions known to few, and the process is monitored as if it were a continuous restoration of a living work of art. It is not just time that transforms the drink. It is the combination of pressure, silence, and patience. Just as a painting needs the right light, champagne needs the perfect environment. While other brands focus on accelerating processes, Dom Pérignon does the exact opposite. It slows them down. It allows the wine to reveal hidden layers of aroma and texture with the calm that only true luxury knows. Each stage of maturation, plenitude, releases different expressions, as if the bottle were traversing chapters of its own hidden history. It's like watching a wine tell secrets that only appear when it's ready to speak. And each vintage has its own personality, its unique voice, its legacy. These techniques create a rarity that the consumer feels even before tasting. When someone opens a bottle of Dom Pérignon, they are opening years of silence, care, and intention. It is the materialization of the symbolic value that only truly extraordinary products carry. And this awakens a natural curiosity. If the aging process is so extraordinary, how has this champagne become an object of desire for celebrities, billionaires, and collectors around the world? The answer lies in the next chapter, the sensory ritual that millionaires know, and the general public doesn't. When a millionaire opens a bottle of Dom Pérignon, he's not just drinking champagne, He's participating in a sensory ritual carefully crafted over centuries. The way the bottle is held, the angle of the serving, the silence of the environment, all of this is part of the experience. It's luxury in its most intimate form, where every detail carries tradition. For many it may seem excessive, but it is precisely this sophistication in the gestures that transforms the tasting into something akin to a ceremony. The average person often doesn't realize that there are specific techniques for perceiving each layer of champagne. Millionaires know, for example, that the first aroma is just the gateway to a sequence of sensations that change every minute in the glass. They understand the ideal breathing time, a concept reminiscent of the ritual of those who appreciate rare cigars or single-origin coffees. This perception of rarity transforms the simple act of drinking into a profound, almost meditative, sensory exploration. And then there's the choice of glass, which isn't random. The wrong glass can destroy the hidden history within the drink. Connoisseurs choose models that enhance the effervescence and texture, something that may seem like a detail to many, but which defines the entire experience. And this care is part of the exclusivity of champagne. It's not just about what you drink, but how you experience the moment. This emotional preparation is one of the reasons why celebrities and billionaires have transformed Dom Pérignon into a cultural symbol, something we will see even more clearly below. Dom Pérignon in the hands of celebrities, billionaires, and visionaries. How the brand became a cultural symbol. Dom Pérignon didn't become a cultural symbol simply because it's a rare drink. It did so because it began circulating among people who shape behavior. Celebrities, billionaires, and trendsetters started using it as an extension of their identity, almost as if each bottle were a personal signature of sophistication. When icons like Lenny Kravitz, Lady Gaga, or influential artists celebrate something with Dom Pérignon, they reinforce a hidden history of exclusivity that spans generations. It's the perfect union between legacy and public image. This constant presence in the world of stars generates a ripple effect. The public sees the drink as part of rituals involving achievements, victories, and great moments. It's as if Dom Pérignon were the final seal of someone who has achieved something extraordinary. After all, it's not an everyday drink, it's a bottled celebration. And this creates an impressive symbolic value. Opening a bottle is, in a way, telling the world that that moment deserves to be included in one's own collection of rare memories. Behind the scenes, many of these visionaries choose Dom Pérignon not only for its flavor, but for the history it carries when toasting. Each vintage represents a unique narrative, and those who make a living creating narratives understand the power of that. Thus, champagne becomes part of image building, personal branding, and even lifestyle. And it is this silent dissemination among the world's great names that helps explain why some bottles reach surprising values when they enter the radar of collectors, something that grows even more in the next topic. The hidden value, why collectors pay fortunes for rare vintages. The world of collectors operates on its own logic, where rarity and history carry more weight than any price tag. In the case of Dom Pérignon, each rare vintage holds a symbolic value that transcends the liquid inside the bottle. For these buyers, acquiring a bottle is not just investing in champagne, but in a fragment of tradition and sophistication. It's like buying an original work of art. The value lies in its uniqueness, its hidden history, and the promise that it will never be repeated. Furthermore, the brand understands that exclusivity is built through strategic decisions. When it decides not to release a vintage, it creates a void in the market that immediately transforms the following year into liquid gold. Collectors love gaps because they build narrative, create mystery, and fuel desire. And in the world of luxury, desire is more valuable than any ingredient. That's why vintage bottles, limited editions, and special collaborations reach prices that seem unbelievable to the average person, but make sense to those who live for rarity. The most interesting thing is that many of these bottles are never opened. They are kept as emotional and financial treasures. Some are passed down from generation to generation, like jewels. Others are hidden in climate-controlled cellars, waiting for the right moment to reveal their perfection. It's a silent, selective world, driven by passion and strategy. And all this atmosphere creates the perfect setting for the final question. How does Dom Pérignon manage to remain relevant, mysterious, and desirable even in a hyper-exposed world? That's exactly what the next section reveals. The future of bottled luxury. How the brand maintains its mystery even in a hyper-exposed world. In a world where everything is filmed, photographed, and shared in seconds, maintaining mystery has become a true act of resistance. And Dom Pérignon masters this art like few others. The brand understands that luxury is not about showing off, but about revealing itself only to those who know how to look. Therefore, it avoids exaggeration, avoids over-explanations, and allows the consumer to discover layers of meaning throughout the experience. It's a silent, almost spiritual sophistication that contrasts with today's hyper-exposure. The brand's strategy is clever. It embraces innovation but preserves its legacy. A limited vintage here, an artistic collaboration there, and always that feeling that there's a hidden story behind each release. It's like watching a movie that never reveals everything at once. You need to go back, rewatch, savor. Dom Pérignon reinvents itself without losing its essence, maintaining a rare balance between tradition and modernity. And it is precisely this combination that makes the champagne remain relevant, even with so many distractions around it. This strategic control of mystery creates a powerful emotional connection with those who admire exclusivity. The brand understands that, in the world of luxury, less is more, and silence is golden. And curiously, it is this silence that calls us to look closer. After all, something so rare, so discreet, and so full of meaning could only generate a continuous desire. A desire that prepares the ground for the next step in this narrative, where we will tie it all together in an engaging introduction that makes any viewer feel that there is much more behind this 300-year-old beverage. Now that you know the hidden story behind Dom Pérignon, I ask you, how many things in your life have you treated as ordinary, when in fact they have the potential to become extraordinary? Could it be that you are letting your own perfect vintages pass you by unnoticed due to lack of attention, intention, or courage? Because, just as this champagne is only born in ideal years, perhaps your greatest moments are also calling for more selectivity and less haste. Perhaps you're realizing that true luxury lies not in what you buy, but in what you choose to preserve. And this applies to your decisions, your projects, your relationships, and even your routine. What have you been cultivating with patience? What have you been allowing to age purposefully? Or better yet, what have you allowed the world to rush or dilute when it should be treated as a rarity? These questions are unsettling, and it is precisely this unease that transforms. So, before you leave the video, make a simple choice. Apply just one lesson from here to your life. Just one. Because a small decision made with intention can become your next rare find. And if you like this kind of mind-opening, thought-provoking, and transformative content, take this opportunity to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. That way you'll continue learning, evolving, and discovering the kind of knowledge that most people will never have access to, but you will, every time you come back here.